It says because you're in a meeting already and they're in Canvas.
I can send them the invite. I don't understand why they wouldn't be able to. Yes, I'm sending the invite. Thank you so much for telling me, TK.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I normally send the invite to everyone, but I just omitted this time. Sorry. Okay. Good. Okay, so can anyone tell me what is the type? So this is what you would expect to see on the test. So what type of function is this? So it is type 3. It's a rational function. And I'm going to ask you, does it have horizontal asymptote? And the answer is? Does it have a horizontal asymptote?
No, it doesn't.
Does not. Very good. And number 3, slant asymptote?
Yes.
Yes. And number 4, find it. So let's find a slant asymptote for this. This is a simple situation. I don't need to use long division. I should only separate the terms in the numerator and create 2 different fractions. So then simplify. X squared over x is just x minus 1 over x. Just this, the quotient is the slant asymptote. So y equals x is the slant asymptote. This is the only thing I'm going to ask you about type 3. But since we talked about it, I want you to see what's happening and what is going on with type 3. And that is the end of 3.5. And yes, please.
Can you slide your paper up so we can see all of it?
Like this?
Yeah, just the bottom of it.
Yes, sorry. Questions for me, please? Questions? Questions? Anyone? Okay, perfect. So our next step, last section for test 2. is section 3.6. Polynomial and rational inequalities. So let's refresh our memory on the types of inequalities we know so far. We know linear. We know absolute value. And we know compound inequalities. This is what we know. So let's start with polynomial. I'm going to choose a problem. You can choose the next, of course. I'm going to choose a problem that is already factored, something nice, like 32 on page 441. It has x, 4 minus x, and then x minus 6, less than or equal to 0. Okay, when I look at this, I'm on the left-hand side, I see basically it's a polynomial. Can anyone identify the degree? This is basically coming from 3.2. Do we know the degree of this?
3.
Very good, awesome. X times x times x is degree 3. Excellent. Okay, since it's already factored, everything is a product. This part is a product, meaning everything is factored. Then I'm going to create a table. This first row is always the variable in the problem. This is where I put numbers, whatever I need, anything between negative infinity and infinity. Then the next row is the first factor, which happens to be x by chance. The next factor, I don't like the way it is presented. I'm going to present it as negative x plus 4. And the last factor is correctly presented in descending order. So each factor has its own row. And what I'm really interested in is to study this. Okay. Now, I would like to determine when is this expression 0. And I'm going to write the number on the side. When is this expression 0? When x is 0. Very good. When is this expression 0? When x is
4.
very good. Where is this expression 0? When x is
6.
very good. These three numbers have to be put at the top where the variable is, where x is, in the correct order, in ascending order. 0, 4, 6. For x, there is a 0 under 0. As long as this is 0, I put 0 under 0. For negative x plus 4 is under 4. For x minus 6 is under 6. Question: what happens to the product when x is 0? When x is 4? When x is 6? Let's think for a moment. When x is 0, the first factor is 0. So what does this become?
Zero.
Very good. Now, when x is 4, the second factor is 0. So then what does the product become? Still 0, right? If the third factor is 0, the product is still 0. Is that okay? Now, exactly how we did a few minutes ago with that y equals x minus 2, I'm going to ask you, because this is linear, this is linear, this is linear, I'm going to ask you, how does this look like? Coming from negative to positive, or coming from positive to negative? Or simply we can plug in numbers. Is it this with a positive slope, or is it this with a negative slope?
Positive slope?
Yes. So it's negative and then positive. Well done. What about this one, though? This one has a negative.
To negative.
Yes. So it's coming from positive going to negative. What about x minus 6?
A positive slope.
Yes. So it's the same pattern with negative and positive. Now notice what happens here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 subintervals. A lot of action in this table. Okay. So I'm multiplying a negative by a positive by a negative. Don't even count the positives. I'm multiplying two negatives. What would be the sign of the outcome?
Positive.
Excellent. In the next subinterval, I have one negative. What will be the sign of the outcome?
Negative.
In the next subinterval, again, I see two negatives. What will be the sign of the outcome? Because I multiply them.
Positive.
And the last one, I have a negative, so it's negative. So, in case you're wondering, why are we doing this? It's because we want to study the sign of this expression. Is this expression, now I'm going back to make a decision. This less than or equal to 0. What sign is less than or equal to 0? We only have sign numbers either positive or negative. Which of the two signs will be less than or equal to 0? I know
Negative.
it's a silly, yes. So is this product ever negative? Yes. The product is negative here, and the product is negative here. And that is the solution. So, solution, x in the interval. We will include the endpoints of the interval except infinity, of course, because of the equal symbol. So we have 0, 4, and then union 6, infinity. This is it. Your book shows a different method to plug in numbers. Use the method you like. I will not get offended or upset in any way. Let's look at another problem. Let's say 23. On the same page, 441. Any questions before we move on? Any questions? Is this okay? Okay, there is a chat, something, my laptop messed up, which doesn't have a microphone or camera. That's okay, as long as you can keep up. Okay, so 23 negative x squared plus x greater than or equal to 0. Well, this is different. Still polynomial, but different. This was nice. Everything was factored for us. We didn't have to do anything. Immediately we went to the table, we filled it in, and we got the answer. But this time, I see two problems. I shouldn't say problems, but two issues. One, I don't like that. Secondly, it's not factored. So that is easy to get rid of. How do I get rid of this sign?
Multiply by -1.
Very good. So this will be x squared minus x, 0. And now we have to think carefully. What do we need to do?
Switch the signs because we multiplied by a negative.
Excellent. So this is indeed less than or equal to 0. Now we have to do what we took for granted here, because this was already factored. So factor x minus 1 less than or equal to 0. Now this is table ready. X is the variable in the problem. It happens again that I have x as a factor, and then x minus 1, and then the product. Again, I need the value that makes for each one 0. So I can put them in the correct order in the table.
0 and 1.
Very good. So please put them in the correct order. In the table, put 0 for the first row because that's where it's 0. And under 1 for x minus 1. So again, what happens here and here with the product? When any of the factors is 0, what happens to the product?
It's 0.
Yes. Now, again, I don't really have to think once you get used to this. This is, I think, easy to understand. Easier than other topics. This, both are linear functions with a positive slope. They come from negative and go to positive. Just quickly fill it in. And now you know the result. You have 3 subintervals. On the first subinterval, what will I have?
Positive.
Very good. In the middle, I have negative and then positive. Again, it happens that I'm asked to do the same thing. Which sign is less than or equal to 0 and which sign will I pick then? Which sign will I pick?
The negative.
Very good. Which happens exactly here. If you pick x between 0 and 1, the inequality is true. It's less than or equal to 0. Left-hand side less than or equal to 0. If you pick x to the left of 0 or x to the right of 1, you will get a positive number and the inequality is false. So then solution, x in the interval. Again, I will pick the endpoints of the interval as well. And that is final. Very, very minor difference with rational inequalities. And you will tell me what the difference is. Let's start with 48. On the same page, 441. And we have negative x minus 3 divided by x plus 2. And less than or equal to 0. I'm happy. The top is factored, the bottom is factored. I don't have to do anything, just put them in the table. So they are, this is table ready. What do I put under x that can be any real number? The first row will be the factor from the top, negative x minus 3. The second row will be x plus 2, the second factor. The last row now is not a product, but the ratio. That's okay. And negative x minus 3 over x plus 2. Okay. I need the same thing. Again, I need when x to find the x when x minus x minus 3 is 0, and then find the x when x plus 2 is 0. So let's do that. Negative x minus 3 equals 0 means negative x equals 3 or x equals negative 3. That's the first answer, the first 0. And the second one is x plus 2 equals 0 when x is negative 2. So this one is -2. Be very careful how you put them in. The -3 has to go in first, and -2 is greater than -3. I put 0 where they belong, or where 0 belongs. And now let's pay attention. What happens under -3 for the ratio? And what happens under -2 for the ratio? What do I put?
For -3, it's 0, but -2 is undefined because you can't have 0 in the bottom.
Great job. Now I have easily to do, simply to study the sign of the numerator. If it has a negative slope, it's positive to negative. If it has a positive slope, it's negative to positive. You tell me what it is.
Positive to negative, and then negative to positive.
On the first subinterval, what do we have?
Negative.
In the middle subinterval.
Positive.
Very good. Again, it just happens again that we are asked to find the x values that make this less than or equal to 0. But which sign is less than or equal to 0? Negative. So we go back. Is this ratio ever negative?
Yes, between infinity and -3, and from -2 to infinity.
That's it. And that's the answer. That is it. So x solution, x in the interval -infinity to -3, and I use the bracket because the inequality has the equal symbol. Union -2 to infinity, but I need to know what do I use here. Parenthesis or bracket?
Parentheses because it's undefined.
Exactly. This is it. That's the only difference. Nothing else.